happy March, happy beginning of spring, and happy Women's Month. We have so many amazing women here in our community, and I'm just so grateful for all of you. So happy to know all of you, and it's such a joy to watch all of you just flourish and expand more and more every single day, and for all of us to be here growing together in our artistry and just in general in our lives. So welcome back to my studio. It is time for another Vital Art session, and oh my goodness, I could not be any more just delighted, just feeling so joyful and so abundant about what we're going to paint today, because it has been a long winter, right? So today we are going to be painting these amazing hyacinth bulbs in a ball jar. And oh my goodness, the fragrance, I wish you could smell these. It is incredible. And I hope all of you, my Wonder Women artists, I hope you all do something like this for yourself this week. Do something nice for yourself. This is such a form of self-care, buying it. These were $12. This bouquet of hyacinth, and it has just uplifted my mood, changed the whole feeling of the whole room, and it's just lifting me up. And now we're going to get to paint it. So what could be even better than that? I love these ball jars. It just reminds me of like my mom and my grandma canning, making salsa, making apple butter and jams and jellies, and making their own pickles and all that fun stuff. It just really brings back some good memories with them. So we have this really lovely spring setup. Very simple though. I really didn't want to add anything else to it. I just wanted these hyacinths to just be the star of the show, and nothing else, added in. So, and also you guys, when you finish this painting, if you sell your paintings, this painting is going to sell like hotcakes. Blue and gold is like one of the top eye-catching color combinations that you can do. And so this is just going to be so gorgeous by the time we get it done. Simple, yet gorgeous, right? Like we don't have to do something super complicated for it to be beautiful. I will tell you that I am going to dull down this yellow just a little bit more. I didn't quite have the exact right color of cloth that I wanted. And I'm thinking I want to kind of make it look like a textured wall or something. So we'll be doing a little bit of inventing with that as well. So let's dive in and get started. Painting. We get to paint today. You guys, oh my gosh, my heart could literally explode with excitement for painting these hyacinths. Oh my gosh, but we won't let it do that. Okay, we're going to start with some Merige, and I'm actually going to tone today with yellow ochre and a tiny bit of raw umber in with it, just to kind of weaken the saturation a bit. Since my background color is going to be kind of a bolder color than normal, and as I mentioned, I am going to tone it down a little bit more than what I'm seeing, just so that things don't get too garish, and so that my star of the show color, which is the blue violet, and the hyacinth, really pops. Okay, so we're just going to put this on kind of thin here. Just get some ground covered. And then this is just going to give such a beautiful glow to the whole painting. So this is going to be a little bit more of a higher key painting. Okay, here we go. Good. All right, and I did pull my backdrop, my shadow box folder thingy, up closer to the subject matter. I do want to have a shelf edge here as part of my design because I've got this awesome, stem coming over the edge and cast shadow. And right now I'm just using that same color mixture, just a little bit thicker, just so to keep you oriented. Raw umber and yellow ochre, just less medium, so it goes down a little bit darker. Okay, and then let's say our hyacinth here, we're going to have that kind of in the center here, and this really nice arch, and the ball jar somewhere in here. Okay, it's a little better sometimes to set this table edge up a little bit higher, because you can always drop it down if you get your size and placement a little bit off. But once you set it too low, and then you place your objects, it's kind of hard if you need to adjust it. So just a little side note about that. Okay, and then we do have some cast shadow in the background, so I'm going to use some more raw umber, some yellow ochre in that mixture, and also a little bit of my alizarin crimson. Okay, just to get kind of a darker shadowy mix for cast shadow back here. This is actually one of our darkest values in the whole painting, is this cast shadow in the background, and you always want to build those darks first. Once you get your size and placement, locate any of those darks, and I'll just use this to kind of block in any darks that I see that aren't super colorful, like the under shadows. I'm really squinting down, shadows underneath the leaves. Love these leaves. These must be, I'm not a big time florist, but it looks to me almost like the leaf you would see on like a leek or even a green onion or something. Okay. I'm just going to wipe away for where that highlight's going to be there. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to actually mix up some of that hyacinth color. And when you're painting flowers, it's a good idea, it's really smart for you to identify what is the closest geometric shape to that flower, okay? And in this case, with these hyacinths, they are closest to a cylinder. And of course, as we know, flowers are always a little more complicated than that, but it's a really good place to start. You know what? I forgot to put out my cat red light. I think I'm going to need just a tiny touch of it. Sometimes that alizarin, just trying to go with alizarin alone, might be a little too cool in some places. Okay, so ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson. I did put a little bit of white in there, as you saw. So I could see the color better, and even the shadow value over here is not, like super dark. So I'm going to start with the shadow, just make a couple of brush strokes for the shadow plane there. It's a little better to make it a little bigger than what you think you might need, because as you can see, there's little bits of shadow peeking through in the center of the form, and you can always layer those lights over it. And that will give you a little bit more dimension. Okay, and then there is some nice dark purples in here. Now I'm using, as I mentioned, ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. Those are my go-to colors always on my palette. You are totally welcome to use like a cobalt violet or another, tube purple that you like. I just want to get this color working right away. Okay, now I basically want to take that color, I'm going to lighten it quite a bit. My white's a little bit sticky, so I'm going to add in a little touch of medium there. That is pretty darn good. Can add some more color to it as well. In this case, I do want to use more of the alizarin crimson because it's the cooler red over the cab red light. I just like that cab red light in the shadow just to give a little extra hit of warmth. Now, you notice that these flowers kind of grow in this direction. Go ahead and start making some strokes like that. I'm using a pretty good size brush, size 6, for these to make some nice, big, juicy strokes, short strokes, and then I'm kind of layering in to that dark wet paint, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Turning my filbert brush to the side, There's a lot we're thinking about when we're painting. You know, there's a lot we're trying to capture, and there's a lot we can do to capture it. It just takes, you know, practice. And of course, it's helpful whenever somebody tells you, hey, turn your brush to the side like this. Do this, don't do that, because, you know, I've just learned from my mistakes. Okay, now the angle of this petal over here, these petals, are not quite getting as much direct light as this flower over here. So this is going to be a little more colorful, a little less light hitting it. All in all, these flowers are a darker value against that lighter background. Okay, with little hits of light on the internal. And we'll get more light against dark in the front rather than against the background, like where there's some petals, like this petal here. Might go ahead and just add in some white here. Just go ahead and make it lighter, because we know that's going to be against, let's say, shadow of the green. Okay, but I can't really get it all that detail in just yet. So let's not totally go there yet. This back one back here is best to kind of leave that one more abstract. Okay, I'm really wiping out my brush there. Let's go ahead and go in for the greens. Ultramarine blue again, this time some cad yellow deep. Just going to go straight in for some of these greens. This is the darker green, the shadow green. It needs to be a little bit warmer. So I'm actually going to steal a little bit, throw a little pinch of cad red light in there just to neutralize the green and shadow, warm it up in shadow. I am still doing warm shadows, cool lights, just to orient you in the design. I think I've got these so close, I'm just going to take them off the canvas. It's better to do that now so that it looks intentional rather than, you know, I don't know, there's kind of this strange fine line between too close to the edges where the size and placement feels like it just got placed a little big, and then going off the canvas where it definitely feels intentional. Definitely want to pull this down in here. Some of these greens, we've got a lot of light greens too, so we're going to get to those, but we always want to build those darks first. Okay, definitely have one over here. Ultramarine blue. I'm going to add in a little bit of cad lemon just to get this one a little more brilliant of a color. Okay, I'm mostly looking for the shadow parts of these leaves, not the lip parts, just so you know. Okay, awesome. Now let's go in for the light parts. I'm really wiping some of that dark out of my brush. I'm going to add some cad lemon into this. Just lighten that right on up. These leaves here are perpendicular, so they're going to be colorful and lighter in value, but they are not going to be quite as light as, say, like this leaf folding over, you know, catching the light. So you really have to look at what's happening with the plane, the direction of the plane, and how much light would that direction of plane be getting. I do want this to have a really lively quality. You can definitely not do it as painterly. You know, make sure that you do, you know, follow your own voice in that regard. But I just wanted this to feel really fun and lots of movement and lots of spring life quality to it. So we get enough of these greens. And then I do need to add something lighter and cooler, so I'm going to add in some Naples yellow. I'm going to grab some white from my clean side, a little more white in that mix, a little more cad lemon and some Naples yellow for this one over here. there anywhere else? This one? I really wish this one wasn't coming forward earlier. It was bending down. I guess it's changed its mind on what direction it wants to go, man. Sometimes that happens, right? Change our minds. I want to go this way. This side of the leaf right here would be catching the light, so I am putting a little bit of that light mixture on that side. And then I'm going to switch down to a smaller brush now and add in a lot of white. Lots and lots of white here for inside the jar for those bulbs. I'm going to start at the base and then drag up into that wet mixture. If you need to neutralize a little bit, you've got that purple or blue violet on there. Go ahead and throw in a little bit. Sorry, my throat's kind of sore today. Go ahead and throw in a little bit of that if you need a little more neutral color. Now, where is this glass gonna be? How big is it? Here we go. Just trying to establish those edges of the glass. Keep in mind that glass is always darker on the rim, starting edge. I'm going to pull in some ultramarine blue and yellow ochre to get kind of a darker edge here. Usually clear glass also tends to bend to sort of the blue-green. Down at the base, a little more blue-green, but not like a super saturated blue-green. So that's why I'm using the ultramarine blue and the yellow ochre. Also see some of that kind of darker blue-green inside the glass as well. And then to make this look like glass faster, we're definitely going to get on that highlight. I think in this case, with my background color being in the yellow family, I'm going to put a little cad lemon in to my highlight. Keep that yellow going in the picture a little bit more. Some up here on the rim, just utilizing my palette knife to kind of get that finer edge. Okay, now we've got to get in some more solid background color so that we can carve out more details, get more depth going on here. But I just noticed I forgot to put in some green right here on that little foliage. Okay. I'm going to use a lot of medium here. Lots of light. Yellow ochre is probably the closest color on my palette to that color. I know I want to go a little bit lighter, cooler, a little bit softer, so that all of the more intense chroma in the foreground will stand out. So I'm going to do some white, some yellow ochre. You can see it's about the same value we already have. And putting this down a little thinner as well to start, so there is more medium in this mix. Maybe a little too much medium. And also, if you need to neutralize too, you can grab some of that purple, little touch of purple there. Now, you can definitely go more yellow if you want to. That's totally up to you. I'm trying to put this down maybe a little bit thicker because I wanted to kind of make it look like a textured wall and shelf or something. I'm not quite sure I'm going to be able to pull that off in this amount of time, but we'll do our best. I'm really just using that background color to kind of carve out some of my drawing, pushing the paint out of the bristles. Again, I do have a little too much medium in this. That's like super soupy. Super soupy. That's all right. Make it work. Or just wipe it out of the brush, add more paint. I always forget this Visari paint is pretty buttery and smooth already. You really don't need a lot of medium with it. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of slow down a little bit. Get some of those little ins and outs carved out a little more detailed. And remember, you may have to come back in with your purple as well, but there are just, some little peekaboos here and there. Definitely quite a bit of that gold and yellow showing through on the base too, so make sure you do get some of that yellow in the glass, or else it might not, even though there's so many stems and whatnot in there, but you always want to show a little bit of background color, or else it might not look transparent enough. So just slowing down, trying to carve that out a little bit more. This is rarely the final time that I would touch that flower, but it's definitely moving it to the finish line. But it doesn't mean that that is the last time I will touch it. I will. If you do have a tube like that, I didn't have it upside down. If you store it upside down, that oil will definitely redistribute. Okay, need some more white too. I'm going through the white. And, also if you prefer to go like a little darker, warmer, richer in that background, you could definitely do that. The option is yours. I'm just going to put some pure yellow ochre in here as well. Just going to transition that. And then don't forget, I don't want to, ignore my foreground table edge too long. So I need to get in there so I can see the relationship between the foreground and the background a little bit better. Every painting, it's always about foreground against the background. So when you're designing your painting, you're coming up with your concept, you're always thinking about that. And then as you're painting, you're always watching the relationship between those two spaces. And the wording for when I say foreground, sometimes that gets confusing because we know literally this is foreground up here, but I'm really meaning your subject matter and then everything else. Your subject matter is the foreground. Okay. So we definitely want to go a little bit lighter on this tabletop. So yellow ochre, white, some Naples yellow. Because top planes always get more light than perpendicular planes. Just because of the angle to the light. So you definitely want to have a value change up here, and also just the contrast, for example, contrast of light and shadow on that tabletop plane, like where this cast shadow is, that can be hugely helpful as well. And then if I go thicker at all on this color, it would be, up here in front. Let's say if I went even more colorful or thicker, more texture, paint texture, it would definitely be up here in the front, okay, to get more depth of space. So that background color back there, you definitely want it to recede a little bit more. So I'm even going to put a little bit of cad yellow deep into this mixture. And again, we're back to a perpendicular plane. So we do want to go, a little bit darker in value than that top plane as well. And my first initial cast shadow here, it's pretty close, but it needs to go darker. Cast shadows are pretty dark, so we're going to do some raw umber, some cad yellow deep, and some alizarin crimson, just to get a neutral. And we're going to put that down a little bit thicker, carve out this front leaf to really push that depth and dimension, cast shadow flat on the ground plane. So at the end, I'm typically, adding some of those, fine-tuning details and deepening the dark, seeing what needs to go, a little bit richer, a little bit sharper edge. Everything tends to always start off a little softer edge, and then as you're finishing, you're looking to see where you could sharpen up some focus here and there. Okay, and some cast shadow underneath this, same color, just to ground that jar down so it doesn't feel like it's floating. Back to like my blue-green here. I'm just seeing some dark values in here. Really now coming back to front center of this form. I'm just seeing like what else needs some extra contrast. Value contrast, color contrast. What else needs some pop? Always go back to the center. Okay, so I can see that these darks need to be pushed a little bit more to get some more pop there in the center. Usually your darkest values in a glass are, right underneath the bouquet. A little bit darker here. And I see it going a little darker along that edge, even still for that glass. Okay, so going back to hyacinth, just want to see if there's, any more details I can get in here. I need to go back to kind of my deeper purple. I'm going to add back in some ultramarine blue, some alizarin crimson to this mixture here. Just start to see, where maybe I see some dark accents that really stand out. Petals that are folding over, going to shadow. There's a couple of petals in cast shadow up here from the leaves, blocking light. These filberts are pretty much the perfect shape to make those petal shapes, so there's not a whole lot we have to do. Just, applying the paint flat so we don't pick up other paint around it. But since our light's coming from the left side, all of these petals are going to be in shadow on the right side. And then keep in mind too that hyacinths typically taper. This one is a little more rounded all the way up, and I feel like that looks a little bit odd, so I'm kind of tapering it a bit more. You can see by the other two that they're a little more tapered. I really am just trying now to build up some more layers of paint, so it's not just like one layer of paint. And some might have a little more red in them, some might have a little more blue in them. But just utilizing brush strokes and paint quality to get the illusion of detail here. Making sure I have enough overlaps going a little. I see one here now that I'm looking a little more closely and slowing down a little bit. There's like one petal here that's really catching the light a bit more. So sometimes I think what happens is, we kind of get everything worked up in sort of that middle zone or that middle layer, and then we're like, oh, the painting didn't really work out. But it's really just that you need to go for more detail on the star of the show and just do a little more work. Just a little more looking, a little more observing. And if you tend to run out of steam quickly on a painting, I definitely can identify with that. I've really had to build up my stamina and focus for painting. I don't know that I would say I ever had ADD or anything, but it takes a lot of energy to concentrate like this, and there is definitely a stamina that gets built up with a lot of practice, but you do have to practice. You just have to keep putting in the time. You don't want to push yourself past the point of diminishing returns in your focus. You kind of have to know where that limit is, like where you know that you're not really concentrating anymore, that your energy is, kind of gone. Then you just want to take a break, or maybe you can't even get the energy back until the next day, and that's okay. So you just want to make sure that you do take a break, though, so that you can come at your painting with, refreshed energy. Okay, so I'm just looking for some sharper edges where there's stronger overlaps, focusing on the ones that are in front. Gaily laying down the paint, as Rembrandt would say, supposedly. And I've got dark mixtures and light mixtures still on here. So, it's not like I'm having to think a lot about the color mixture, the beautiful pure color mixture. Okay. And then I'm going to look to see, wiping that white out of my brush, because there are also some darker accents. So I'm going to go back to that ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and a little bit of cat red light mix for some of my deep. Usually this is in the very, very recesses of that hyacinth. And for those of you who don't like to paint flowers, I'm sorry. Sorry to subject you to this. Jermaine, I'm talking to you. But Jermaine, you're getting so good at flowers. See? Aren't you glad? You're getting so good at flowers. All of you are. And just know that I definitely understand that pain. Been there, done that, felt all of that agony. Okay. So just kind of stepping back here to see, can I give anything, any more pop to it? One thing I would like to, I'm out of time. One thing that could be really nice is getting in this little petal in front here. This little petal. Maybe I'll scatter a couple more over here, and I'll do that for you guys in your photo. Always take the photo after I'm done, because sometimes in these lessons I change stuff while I'm painting. I'm like, oh, why did I put that there? Move that, adjust that. So, this edge is still a little bit wobbly. Sometimes if you wait and let the paint set up, you can definitely get it to be a stronger edge. That is probably the best I can do with this super wet paint, wet into wet. But, just kind of putting something down with a little more force there. Just to get, a stronger edge. Okay, my friends, I hope that this has been helpful to you. I hope you have so much fun painting it. I encourage you to run out, see if you can get your own. I just got mine. I think it was from Whole Foods, or maybe even King Soopers had them. It's amazing this time of year you can get some really gorgeous, beautiful, fresh, spring flowers right from the grocery store. So, and super affordable. So definitely treat yourself to that. You will be so happy you did, and I'll be so happy you did knowing that you did it. Okay, wishing you all happy painting. Let me know anything you guys need help with in our Facebook group. Let me know your thoughts on this. Share your results, and make sure you get that support, because that feedback and support from your peers or from teachers is one of the critical components of developing as an artist. Okay, I will see you.